are live. Good morning, everybody. I hope everybody's having a blessed Wednesday. I know I am. I know my guest is, and I'm ready to have him here. It's been I met him before COVID. All the things happened. It was in an event, the Habit to Work event. I was the one that ticket, so I went in there and well, I actually met everybody, the whole keynote speakers in there, and I still have a lot of connections with them, and I talk to them, and it's amazing when you create these massive connections with different people. You when you jump in and surround with different kind of people, different circles that are gonna push you to the next level, that are gonna help you, that are gonna drive for you to be like, hey, you can do it. I did it. Don't give up. All of the things that we're sometimes are afraid and we have fear to not jump in and do it. But it's life. It's gonna happen. Things are gonna happen for you. And then sometimes you're not gonna like that. But hey, it is what it is. It's life, man. It's painful, but we gotta run it and we gotta go for it. And man, I'm just so thankful and grateful to have him here today. Is Dr. Steve, Mr. Dr. Steve Taubman. I'm gonna read a little bit about his bio, but he's gonna tell you a little bit about himself. So let me start right here. Dr. Steve Taubman is a best-selling author and world-class speaker who has dedicated his life to showing people how to thrive through their challenges. He's written extensively on the application of contemplative practices in stressful situations and has spoken worldwide on mindset mastery for goal oriented and helping professional. I know I got his whole thing here, but I just want to read that at the beginning. And I know he's going to tell us a little bit about himself, but we're going to get into it. Don't worry about it. I'm a good listener. That's something that I've been studying and learning a lot to listen. And it's been good because of all my guests that I bring, that they text me before. I mean, after the show, they're like, "Hey, man, you're actually a good listener. You actually bring questions that they're like, it's kind of hard to. You got to go back to like the story moment that when that happened, and that's amazing because all of us have that story. All of us have a story, and it's amazing how you tell that story and how it makes you that passion of you. But hey, man, don't forget to like and subscribe to your Yeraldy Media and your Concept Media Group, and don't forget the Tinkerbell guys and the people that are watching YouTube and the notifications here on Facebook. So I'm gonna bring him in, Mister Dr. Steve Taubman.
Jesus,
Good.
hello there, my friend.
Hey, man, it's been a while.
Yeah, it's a great pleasure to see you again. Thanks for having me.
Oh man, thank you for being here. I was telling the audience, it's funny that we met like prior. What was it? Maybe after that event, after the Habit to Warrior conference, like month and a half. Then that's when the breakdown of COVID happened.
Boy,
And
everything just kind of fell apart, right? And this has been the most fascinating time in terms of separating people who know how to thrive through challenges from those who don't. And like you said, the Habitude Warrior Conference where we met, that's a gathering of people who are optimistic and who know how to take any circumstance and run with it, right? Be effective. And I don't think there's anything, I don't know about you, but I don't think there's anything more important than gathering together with other great-minded people who have open hearts and optimism and vision. I'm always telling people you need to be going to conferences, you need to have a mentor or a coach, and you need to be listening to shows like Jesus's show, because this is where you get that kind of incredible mental stuff that's so much more important than just mere knowledge.
and that's very true. And it's good that you said that it's good that you go to conference. No matter what conference you go, you're gonna get out of your comfort zone, your circle that you are right now. Because me, I was like, I always wanted to go to like a big conference like that. I used to go to little small conferences, but I need to go somewhere where I can meet a lot of people, that I can be there and surround and feel the feeling of how do you go there and speak as a keynote speaker and all of that, and it feels amazing when you're there, not only surrounded by your speakers and everybody, but the people that were there too, that they were all happy to be there, and they had that choice, because like I said, everybody has a choice to do whatever they want to do. It's your choice to do this, to do that. And I realize now that it doesn't really matter what road you take, is that what you decide to do with that road that you take.
I love that you said that. I remember hearing, I think it might have been Richard Bandler, the founder of NLP, Neuro-Linguistic Programming, which is kind of a branch of hypnosis. It's an empowerment tool using language, using reframing. And he says that the work that we do more than anything else is to deliver to individuals the experience of choice, right? Like, most people don't realize they have a choice. They don't think they have a choice of about how to feel in a given situation. It's a bad situation. I've got to feel bad. And don't know that they have a choice in terms of maybe what they want to do with their lives. There are a lot of people who are stuck in a dead end job, or maybe a job that on the outside looks compelling or successful, but they don't like it. They don't love it. They're not passionate about it. And there's maybe something better for them out there, but they don't feel they have a choice of changing because they made a decision once years ago and they better stick with it till the very bitter end.
Yep, that's very true. But I'm gonna leave the mic to you right now. I want you to explain a little bit, tell a little bit about yourself, where you're coming in. Yeah. And I know you got a lot of those books on the back, and I know you're out there, so that's good. It sucks that I should have, got your book and talked about it, but it's okay because it's on the way. So when he gets here, the next interview, we'll talk about the book.
Well, you'll have me back, right? We'll do this all over again. But yeah, I've written several books and programs. My latest book is this one that you see. I never know if I'm turning the right way with this like mirrored thing, but right there. It's called Bulletproof. What if everything that bugged you, that blocked you, or that brought you down didn't? And I ask people to consider that. Most people spend their lives in a state of constant frustration because something's bugging them, something's blocking them. And more often than not, what's blocking them is themselves, their own attitude, their own thoughts, their own sense that they don't have any other choice, and what's bringing you down. So I wrote a book about what I guess I would call mental resilience, how to be calm, masterful, and motivated on the battlefields of life. And coincidentally, that book came out about a month before COVID came out. So the timing was pretty good. And I find that a lot of people are reading it now and listening to it on Audible because it's timely. It's important for us to look at those concepts. But you asked me about myself. So my background is kind of eclectic and strange. I was a chiropractor for many years. I had a very ultimately very big sports medicine practice in Vermont, here in Vermont where I live. And I got to a point in my practice where it just felt like I needed to move on. I needed to reinvent myself. And again, like I said, sometimes we need to be willing to make a new choice. And I did. And I spent a year just traveling and kind of reconceiving who I was and what was important and defining my mission in life. And then I became a stage hypnotist. I'm sure you've seen that, Jesus. Well, I don't know if you saw my show at the Habitude Warrior Conference. I don't always do it there, but I often do, where I put people on stage and I hypnotize them and have them do a lot of funny, silly things. Well, it's a really remarkable thing to see, not only because it's very funny, but also because of the implications. Like, what does it mean that our minds are capable of jumping into this altered reality and that we start to experience things as if they were real when they're not real? And what does that mean, right? So I started to contemplate that in my life. Like, what does it mean that you could convince somebody in a state of hypnosis that they're stuck to the chair and they can't move, or that they can't even remember their own name, or that it's very hot out when it's really not hot, or cold, or whatever? And it really just begins to dawn on you that your mind is creating all of your experience of reality. And it's also reacting to the experiences it's having in ways that determine how that experience plays out. So if I look at what I do with a hypnotized subject and then I compare it to what we go through on a day-to-day basis, I would say that we're all hypnotized. That's right. And that's why I wrote my first book, which I called Unhypnosis, meaning how do we wake up? The situation where the guy's stuck to the chair, it doesn't matter how hard he tries to get out of that chair when he's hypnotized, because he'll exert exactly as much force to keep himself in the chair as he's exerting to try to get himself out of the chair, right? You're fighting against yourself. And when you fight against yourself, you never win. So what is required for us, and this is what I began to think about and what I ended up starting to write about and ultimately speak about, is that if you want a life that you can live that's joyful and makes a difference, then the first thing you need to do is you need to wake up. You need to get out of your hypnotic trance. You need to recognize that you've been living your life in a box, and you got to figure out, what's reality versus what's the reality I've been taught, that I've been programmed into, that I've been programming myself into. Like, what's true? And what's usually true, I think it was Einstein who said, the truth is beautiful. So if it isn't beautiful, it's not true. So how do you find the inner beauty? How do you find the inner capacity for creation? And that's what I try to do, is to help people through laughter, through astonishment, through insight, through my words and my writings, to help people realize, wait a minute, maybe I'm not stuck here. Maybe this isn't a dead end. Maybe even if I'm sick, right? Maybe even if I've had anxiety for years, maybe those are not the end of the road for me. Maybe just because I was born with this or I got it early in life doesn't mean that it has to stay that way. My past does not have to equal my future. So does that answer your question?
No, yeah, and I was paying attention because, like I said, I am always listening. You said something important that I just recently been hearing a lot. How we waking up to reality, and I heard, I think it was Brad Lee, that he said, everybody, like, if I give you $1 million, would I give you $1 million, or would you be better if you wake up? And it's the truthfully is that you want to wake up, because you make that choice to make more than $1 million, because there's no such a thing as having a lot of money when you don't wake up. If you don't wake up, you're not going to go amount and make that money, because you're dead.
Not only that, that's an outstanding point. The idea that it's almost like, if you give a man a fish, he can eat for a day, but if you teach him to fish, he could eat for a lifetime. If you give a person consciousness, if you wake someone up, if you have them recognize their own inner greatness, then the sky's the limit in terms of what they can earn, what they can create, what they can experience. But more than that, if somebody goes through life asleep, hypnotized, and less than their potential self, and you give them $1 million, that $1 million isn't going to even mean very much to them, because their quality of life is not determined by what you give them. It's determined by what they think of themselves. And if you're stuck in a hypnotic trance that tells you I'm not enough, well, now you're just not enough with $1 million. And how much better does that feel? Not much.
Not much. That's very true. And I was telling a lot of the people that are watching, the audience, and my friend, that when I met you, that you were talking about the MTV, that you used to be that guy that did the MTV, and I was like, they're like, oh, we want to hear that. So I'm like, well, I want to get into a little bit of that. So we're going back in time when MTV used to be on TV, so they can, understand that. I mean, that was amazing when you said that. I used to be there when the colleges had all those parties, and you did that. That was
spring break. Yeah, we did the big spring break shows for MTV on the beaches of Jamaica and Barbados and the Bahamas, and we had all these like really funny, outstanding shows. I remember one where we were in Negril Beach, Jamaica, and I had about 2,500 kids out on the beach watching a show that was on a big, band stage that we had, that was erected on the beach. And I had maybe 20 people on stage that I'd hypnotized. And in the middle of this show, I took one of my subjects, who was this big, kind of really good looking Channing Tatum kind of dude with blue spiky hair. He looked like a Smurf on steroids. And I said to him, I said, when you wake up, 3 things are going to happen. I said, number 1, you don't believe you're hypnotized, even though you are. And I said, number 2, this is the worst show you've ever seen, and you are aggravated with me. And then I said, number 3, there's an invisible wall 3 feet in front of you. Right. So I woke everybody up. And I said, how's everybody doing? And that guy screams, you suck. So I said, well, leave. The guy gets up, he takes 3 steps, and bang, he hits the wall. And he starts to push, and he can't get through it. And he finally gives up, and he sits back down, and he crosses his arms, and he starts to pout. He's like this. I said, what's the problem? He goes, nothing. I said, are you hypnotized? He goes, no. I said, are you having fun? He goes, no. They said, well, then why don't you leave? And the guy thinks for a minute, and he goes, I'm not going to give you the satisfaction. And that was the pivotal moment, right? Because that's when I realized that's all of us. That's the human condition. We want to go somewhere, and we're stuck behind our invisible wall. That's not real. It's only the product of our own hypnosis. And the funny part was, he doesn't think he's hypnotized. So what does that say about everybody else? Just because you don't think you're hypnotized doesn't mean it's true, right? We're missing a lot of our lives. You get in the car, you drive home, and You get there, you don't remember how you got there. Where were you? Right? Or you're looking for your cell phone while you're talking on your cell phone. So where's my phone? So we're kind of sleepwalking a lot, and we've got to recognize that. It's not that it's a bad thing, because there are ways that we can use that time as well. I mean, it's okay to check out. It's okay to zone out. But if you're going to do that, understand that those are very fragile, suggestible times in your consciousness. And so if you're going to zone out, what you want to do is you want to use that as a time to reprogram yourself. Maybe you've like made a list of things you want to change about yourself, and you kind of run those through your head while you're just kind of daydreaming, and that helps it go in more deeply. The same way as it would if I were working with you. If I were your coach, if I were your hypnotist, what would I do? I'd put you into a receptive state, a daydream-like state, and then I'd start speaking truth to you. And I'd start giving you a way of looking at the things that are stuck inside of you, all those negative beliefs, and give you a way of throwing them away so that you had a clean slate and you could create that life you were meant to live.
That's you got a big point there, that now I see it what you're talking about, being hypnotized. And we are, and like you said, it's not that it's wrong, but it's like, I guess, how you're living your life, like seeing that consuming the negativity, consuming everything that is out there. So you're living that circle of a life that sometimes you just got me thinking, like, you're thinking, is this true? This is what I really are?
Yeah. Well, think about how much time we spend on automatic. Like and that, again, it's not that it's bad. There are things that we do in our lives for which you might as well be on automatic, so to speak. But many of those moments, if you were to apply consciousness to those times, like just force yourself to be present and awake during those times, that would be practice for other times in your life. You'd become more aware of your level of consciousness. How awake am I right now? Now, you brought up the whole thing about the inner dialogue, the negativity. That's one of the best ways that we have to recognize whether or not we're in a conscious state. Because if you're ruminating, you're churning, and you're depressed and you're anxious, you begin to realize that it has nothing to do with anything outside of yourself. I don't care if you're terminally ill and you've got a month left to live. It's not necessary that you're suffering in that moment. It's not necessary. And, you've got worries about the future. You don't have a job. I mean, those are all very real things that could cause suffering. But the truth is, even under the most grueling of circumstances, it is possible from that more awake place to just notice it all unfolding the way you would watch a movie, a fascinating movie. It's like, wow, look at that. And look at that. And I wonder what's going to happen next. And you develop a different attitude, even toward the tough stuff. That's how you know. So we can use our own misery as a signpost for whether or not we're awake. Like, oh, I'm depressed. I'm anxious. Oh, I guess maybe I'm not really awake. Mm-hmm. Oh, I'm frustrated. Oh, okay. That's a wake-up call. I've got to do something about that.
So I have a question. Yeah. Like just recently, like my aunt just passed away because of the COVID-19, and she had diabetes and all that. And and I was asking myself, I was sitting down, I think I was outside, and I was like, whoa, everybody takes it this when somebody dies different, because some of us cry and they don't believe what has happened, and some can cry for years. Like you were saying, they get depressed, and then they die of the same thing, diabetes or whatever, or they just die of depression, or they just kill themselves.
Right. Yeah.
And I was like, every time that somebody dies in my family, it doesn't, to me, I realize that they're in a better time, they're in a better world, they're in a better peaceful time now than where they're at here. So I'm not that kind of guy that I will splatter out and cry.
Yeah.
But it does hurt. But I'm like, oh man, they're in peace. And I'm just living the memories that I had with them, like the best memories, the bad, the worst, whatever I did. And that makes me smile, and knowing that they're looking down at me and be like, you're not like the others, but you have a heart and you still love me, but you know that you're still alive and you got to keep on going.
Yeah. Yeah. I appreciate that, Jesus. I feel like I do it the same way. Now, if I feel deep sadness, I let myself feel deep sadness. And grief is a normal occurrence. We don't want to try to shut ourselves down or stop ourselves from feeling what we feel, but we do want to be able to, to recognize that it's not an ultimate tragedy. It's just something that for us in that moment is very, very sad. And we bless that person and we embrace the memories, and then we move through it. I mean, Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, who wrote about death and dying, talked about the stages of grief. And, we have anger, and we have denial, and we have bargaining, and I forgot all of them, but ultimately the last one you get to is acceptance, right? Eventually you come to accept that this is the new reality. We could all be better at moving from the worst manifestation of our grief to the best manifestation, which is the place of, I accept this. I miss that person. I feel sadness when I think about them, but the sadness is not all consuming. I'm not suffering in sadness. I'm just noticing sadness inside of myself. And along with that sadness is also gratitude for having lived with them for the time that I did, joy for the memories of what they gave me. And as you said, particularly if you have a spiritual or religious framework that allows you to see them as, being in heaven, or being, from a different spiritual tradition, maybe reincarnated or whatever it is, that life doesn't end, however that frame works for you, it's another way that you can keep it from being a tragedy, because life is real, death is real. There's no way around either one of those. There was a Monty Python cartoon, skit once years and years ago, where there, like, a tree came, a leaf fell out of a tree, and as the leaf was falling out of the tree, it's going, "Oh no, I'm dying, I'm dying, I'm dying!" And then another leaf falls and says, "Oh, I'm dying too." And it was silly because it's like leaves fall. It's just, that's what happens. But it was, if leaves were human, that's what they'd be doing, and the other leaves would be like, "Oh my God, there goes our leaf." So it's just like, well, we missed that leaf, and it's very sad, but at the same time, life goes on, and we have to adopt a more empowered way of thinking about life and death. Otherwise, we're just going to suffer. And often people who suffer, they defend their suffering. They're like, "Don't tell me not to suffer," or "You just don't understand," or it's as if there's a nobility in never letting something go, and I don't believe that. I think it's perfectly human to feel pain, but I don't think there's any nobility in suffering needlessly.
And something else that I learned, that I used to be, so afraid of death and everything, I kind of got into my mind, like you were saying, life and death is real. It's there. It's gonna happen. So it took a long. It's like, say, it's an overnight success. It took me a long time to understand that about death. I cannot be afraid of death, because if I think about it every day, it's like it's gonna eat me inside, and it's gonna curse me of like, oh, I'm gonna die someday, or somebody's gonna die, and you're gonna be so afraid of it that it's consuming you on that part of time. So when I understand that was real, that how we say our lives matters, you think that he's or she's like, I don't care, I'm taking all of you with me. I don't care if you think our life matters, I'm taking every single one of you. So I was like, you know what, your time is gonna come. We have a short period of time here, so enjoy it and enjoy your family, and remember to say I love them, or say something positive to know, because you never know, in a couple of minutes or tomorrow they're gone, and you're like, damn, I didn't get to hug them, I didn't get to do this, I didn't get to do that, and now you're blaming yourself. And for not you to blame yourself, do all those little things that you think that, oh man, it feels uncomfortable saying that. No, you gotta say them, because when something happens, then you be like, all right, at least I said something positive to know, or at least I changed the little mini thing on them, that they move forward.
That's so brilliant, Jesus. One of the things that's that we have to understand is that the ultimate expression of love is presence. Being present, be here now. Like, when I'm with you, I'm only with you, right? You've got my undivided attention. I'm embracing you with my heart and with my attention. And that's the ultimate example of love. Now, if you're with somebody who is alive and you're worrying about them dying or grieving in advance of them being gone, what you're doing in that moment is you're not being present with them, you're being in the future. And if you're being in the future, you are, as you said, you're depriving that person of the opportunity to feel your love. You're depriving yourself of the opportunity to love them while they are there, right? So why waste a single moment catastrophizing about the future when you could be right here, right now, giving love, being grateful. I'm gesturing in this direction while I say this because right here on the floor, just out of the camera frame, is my dog Woody, and Woody is 14 years old, and that's Woody. And you've met Woody. Woody's a beautiful little
Mhm.
he's getting on in years, and this is what I deal with in my own heart, right? I feel a sort of sadness about the fact that he's not going to be around forever, and I can't shake it completely. But what I do is I look at him and I cherish him, and I make sure that I don't forget to be present with him and appreciate whatever is going on in his life, even though I could compare the way he is now, where he moves kind of slow compared to when he was a puppy, jumping around and stuff. If I spend all my time comparing the way he is now to the way he was, then I'm not appreciating the way he is. So everything I'm saying to everybody now, I'm saying to myself too, because we all need to be reminded, right? Wisdom is like fresh baked bread. It's got to come out of the oven every day, all over again. It's got to smell good. It's got to be warm. That's how truth has to work. You've got to wake up every morning and remind yourself and be reminded and find ways of being reminded to live from that place. It's the only way you're going to feel at the end of your life that you mattered.
Oh yeah. And I mean, your dog is amazing, man. When I met him that day, I was like, man, he's like understands. Like, if I always say an animal is just like us. He has a heart. They don't talk, but they have their own feelings. So it does hurt us, like you're saying. You gotta pay attention to them. I still remember when, a long time ago, when I gave my mom the first puppy, and it was a little puppy, and then he grew and he grew and he grew, and then it happened when he died, she was hurt. She even called me. I still remember this day. I was at work and she was like crying. I said, "What happened, Mom? Oh, the puppy's dead." And I was like, "Whoa!" Like, she gave me that call, like I thought like one of our, of like an uncle died, or no, the puppy died. Until I started realizing, man, how you get attached, because a lot of people don't get attached too much with the family, but they get attached to what they have. It's a cat or a puppy, and it's like, that's my cousin, that's my uncle. So to think about it that way is true, and it does, because when I see them, we have two little puppies now. When that happened, my mom said, "I don't want no more puppies."
Right.
So
And I get it. It's loss is a hard thing. We learn from it, and we try to move on, and for some people more than others, it is painful. There's no question about this. Can be very painful. But like you said at the beginning, you grieve, but at the same time you appreciate, and you're happy about having had that experience. Hey, Alicia, I know Alicia. She says, "It's only me that cannot hear." Oh, okay. I don't know, Alicia. Is she?
No, it was her. Look, she put another one. I can hear now. It's my device, so we're good. Like, the volume and everything is good.
Okay, but Alicia, go back and listen to the part you missed. We said we had some good things to say here, and Woody.
Oh yeah, but we're gonna shift to the next thing. So how was that moment when you start speaking on stages? And I know you're an international speaker. Like, that first time where you got that opportunity, and you were like, if you were afraid to speak, I don't know if it was 10, 500 people, and you were like, that moment just opened up more doors to speak to internationally.
There were definitely moments of sheer panic and terror along the way. I am by nature, I'm kind of a performer, so I enjoy being in front of people, and I think pretty well on my feet. One of the things that I was taught early on about speaking was to use there's kind of an old way of being taught to speak, where you memorize your speech as if you were an actor, right? So you're memorizing the exact words of your speech, and you're practicing the gestures the same way you would if you were in a movie. You don't have the luxury of just saying it any which way. You get your performance down, and then you get on your stage and you deliver your performance, and it's got to be flawless. And so you got to really practice. And then, I was terrified if I got on stage, God forbid I would forget one word and the whole thing would come crumbling down, or I would do it, but I wouldn't feel like anything was really coming through. And in the long run, I realized I can't do it that way. I don't care whether, a dozen of the great speakers of the world say you've got to memorize your speech. It's not the way that I express myself best. And so so until I got that right, until I said I've got to do it the way I can do it, then there were a lot of days that I'd get on stage and it just felt stiff, or it felt ingenuine, or it just felt scary the whole time, because all the time I was talking, I was thinking about what I needed to say. Now when I get on a stage, it's not much different from what's happening right here in our conversation, right? I haven't memorized anything, but my stories, I've told these same stories over and over again. So without trying to memorize them, they're in my soul, right? And they're my life, right? So I'm speaking my life, I'm speaking my truth, and it has made it infinitely less scary and a whole lot more fun. So I do, I probably in the last couple of months probably done about 50 radio shows and podcasts like your show, and every one of them is delightful to me because I'm not preparing for it. I'm just, I've prepared for it for a lifetime, and now I just get to be. And none of us need to be afraid to just be. We could all, just find our source, find your wisdom, find your truth, and then just let go of everything else and just start speaking your truth, and all the fear goes away.
And that's true. Yeah. It's true. Like I hear in my computer, I got the picture of it's you, me, and Mr. Tony Rodriguez,
Yeah.
and it's just those moments that that's me. When I go to, even if it's not a conference or if it's a meeting, I take a picture or anything to remember, what you did that day. Like like I understand now that today is Wednesday. Today we create a new story of whatever you're doing. Either you're working for somebody, you're working for yourself, but you're creating your own story today. Yesterday is gone, tomorrow is not even here. So you make sure that whatever you create today, you create it and be blessed about it, be thankful about it, because it's gonna be gone.
Yeah.
But at least you're doing something that is gonna remind you, remember you, a picture, a video, whatever it is, that like, wow, we had that best moment right there. Or I mean, or that one talk, for even if it was 3 minutes, it got something out of me that I applied it to myself, to some
Right.
aspect of my life, and it helped me. So all of that, it helps grow and evolve as a human, because we're not robots.
Yeah, and it doesn't just help you, it helps the people. Like, for example, you got on stage and talked for like 2 or 3 minutes, right? That was moving, right? It made a difference. People were impacted by it. And so this is something I always think about. It's like, how are you ripping the world off by not stepping into your own greatness, by not facing your own fears, right? Not only is it you who's missing the opportunity to express yourself, but you might have something really powerful to say that somebody needs to hear right now. I remember I was training or coaching a group of young performers who were in a talent show, and they were all nervous about getting on stage and performing in front of the audience. And I was with them in the green room before the show. And I said, what I want you to do is, when you're sitting up there on stage with your guitar, getting ready to play, and you feel that first little twinge of, oh, I hope I do it well, or I hope people like me. So very me-centered. What I want you to do is I want you to take a moment and look at the audience. Just look out at the audience and see if you can find the one person out there who's just lost a loved one, who's hungry for something to give them some inspiration, and have your song be a gift to that one person, right? There's always an opportunity to have an impact, and it's not always as big an impact as you want, but if you can impact one life, you've made a huge difference.
And that's what I'm always happy when I created the show, now, so we can impact a lot of other people, to give a lot of value out there. So just like somebody's out there watching us, they're learning, they're applying, they're writing a note on their notebook or on their phone.
Yeah.
Later on the day, they're like, man, something today that I heard today, man, it's gonna help me to go through my day today. Oh, I needed that. And sometimes people would text me like, man, there was something in there that you told that was actually happening to me today. And I actually sit down and realize that I cannot just sit down and be fearful about that. I gotta go on, and I thank you for that. And I'm like, oh man, thank yourself that you found that, and we helped to hear, and we put some value out there that you can actually go out there and put a value and help somebody else.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for putting yourself in that position. and having the courage and the openness to like invite, really interesting people onto your show and get the, get this message out there for people who need it.
Yeah, and that's that makes me happy, man. Like
Yeah.
what makes my passion is having the show, my own show where I can have like it's a platform, it's a stage right here that and anybody can, talk because there's a lot of people watching it live right now. And there's gonna be a lot more watching the replay.
Mhm.
And it's like, wow, I help somebody out there all over the world because I mean now with virtual it's all over the world. Anybody can see it. So
Yeah.
that's something that it just makes my heart like, man, I can reach more potential people out there that they need something like this, or that they can create their own show or on their own podcast, that they're not afraid to do this, they're not afraid to do that. Because me and you, everybody, we went through that, man. We went
Yeah.
through those stages that like, oh man, am I gonna speak? How am I gonna do this show? I'm afraid to be on camera. How am I gonna get myself not to be afraid to start a show? Who am I gonna bring here? Like that's how I understand now. You gotta ask so many questions, and none of the questions are bad or stupid. They're right. The questions are right. You just gotta write them down and figure out yourself. All right, how can I start? But start. It's start.
And realize that everybody you've ever seen who's good at something, anybody who's a master at something, they once sucked at it. They once were terrible, and they once had no confidence in themselves to do it. Everyone, doesn't matter who they are, doesn't matter how confident they are on stage, how suave, how much facility they have with words. It all has to start somewhere. So if you've got something inside of you, go out and make it happen. Go out and do it. Find a code. I always say in my book, Bulletproof, I talk about living by a code. Right? What's your code of conduct? What are you deciding? You want to live a happy life? Well, what are your ground rules? Living, in integrity. To me, I think of the word magic because I've done magic on stages and whatnot, and so I use it as an acronym. I say M is for mindfulness. Are you being mindful? Are you being present? Are you practicing being in the moment, or are you just sort of stuck in your head? Right? A, are you being accountable? And another use of the word A could be action. Are you in action? Are you doing something? Right? G could be generosity. Are you being generous in the world? Sometimes giving is more important than receiving, right? And just getting in the habit of being generous. Or gratitude is another one. Like gratitude is such an important part of the process of experiencing happiness. I, to me, is integrity. It's always integrity, right? Are you in integrity? Meaning, are you saying what you do, doing what you say? Are you doing the right thing even when no one's looking? Right. And then C is commitment. Commitment meaning, have you decided no matter what, I'm going to walk that path, right? Am I committed to it? And if you live that way, and as Alicia says, counting your blessings, so very important, and being positive, being surrounded by positivity, and having the ear to hear it from other people too, right? Because as much as I'm delighted that I'm able to share some positive messages and that there are people out there hearing them, I'm also delighted when I get to hear positive messages from other people myself, because we all need it, right?
Yeah.
And we could all get bogged down by the negativity around us. But thankfully, as long as there's life in our body, there's healing possible. There's a way to move up and out of it.
That's very true. We all need that, especially in these moments where we at right now
Yeah.
with the new world and all of this stuff that it just flip flopped and changed everything. And
Yeah.
like you had to adapt. Like when this happened, I said, man, I gotta adapt. How can I do this? How can I move around? How can I collaborate with more people? How can I get to more people? And none of this is like thinking on my mind about money. It's like, how can we collaborate? How can we get out there as a community and help each other? Because if not, uh the community is gonna start dying itself.
Mm.
Like I see it, a lot of restaurants, a lot of places, they're
Yeah.
shutting down
Yeah.
because they can't no more. And
Yeah.
it's gonna happen, and it's still gonna keep on happening. A lot of places gonna shut, not only here in Houston, but everywhere. And to me, that's like, man, how can we, help each other? Right? And I'm like, man, the platform of virtual, the technology right now is like out there. The podcast shows, all of that is like so it is growing. I started in 2016, and now I see that it's just barely on the peak of like exploding. And I've been like reading articles, and they're like, from here in 2026 is gonna be so many much billions of the podcast, because it's creating more of attention. You can create so many things by having, like we were saying, if we cannot go speak on stages, well, you create your own stages here in
Yeah.
the platform.
It's because you see what you're doing there, Jesus, is you're asking the right questions instead of the wrong questions. We teach people about questions. What are the questions you're asking yourself at the times when times are tough? If you're saying, why is this happening to me? That's not the right question, because your subconscious mind will reach in and try to find all kinds of reasons why it's happening to you that will justify your victimization. But if your question is, how can I use this for my betterment? What's good in this situation? Those are important. So Alicia's asking a great question here. What book or books do we recommend to help you focus more on positivity? Jesus, do you have an answer or a couple of answers to that question for Alicia?
Man, like to my left, I got all my books right here.
Yeah.
And look, Alicia, this is what I went into Amazon, and I decided to buy a book of all aspects of our lives, like money, spiritual, mindset, leadership, create courses online, things that we had to adapt. And I got them all here. Like 2 books are over there that I'm reading 2 books at a time. And then I got Maxwell over here. The success profiles. I gotta get them in here too. Neo Graciosi. I mean, it's Dean Graciosi. All of those books. So anything that can actually help you, and get one of those books. And I'll definitely text you there some of the names, Alicia, so you can at least go get some of those. But there's one that I have. It's called The 3 Questions. I forgot who's the author. I cannot see it from here. I know his last name is Ruiz. That book about the questions, man, it changed. It's a small book. You can finish it in an hour. But that book changed a lot of perspective on seeing about asking questions. Like we were talking about, what really are the questions that you need to be asking. How you can apply those questions to yourself and to help others. And that book, like I can read it so many times, and you can apply different things on different times if you want to.
There's so Alicia, for me, there are a couple of ways of looking at this. One is, as Jesus says, which is anything that moves you in a direction. So maybe something on goal setting that ultimately you don't have to read about how to be positive. You have to read about what do you do to live a good life, and then in living that good life, then positivity arises naturally. Like for me, the Power of Now is a very powerful book. The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle, really, really powerful, because it talks about how to live in the moment. And if you could live in the moment, then positivity is a natural consequence of that. I also feel the same way about the 4-Hour Work Week by Tim Ferriss. So he's really teaching you a structure of how to live your life. But again, he's talking about how to live your life on your terms, in your time, and design your life the way you want it. There are also books just called Designing Your Life. So the idea is, well, that's going to focus you on positivity because it's focusing on possibility. Possibility equals positivity, right? Without blowing my own horn too much, I think that my newest book is probably one of the best books on positivity, because it takes you through a 5-step process that allows you to look at every element of what it is to be happy, to be productive, and what to do with the obstacles that you face along the way, so that you can move to the other side. Because if you want to be positive, you have to recognize that there are inherent default patterns in your brain that are negative. And if there are default mechanisms that are negative, do you have a strategy for dealing with them, or are you just like running headlong toward negativity, and then suddenly you find it and you don't know what to do when you get there? That's how most of us operate. We get pumped, we get excited, we get really motivated, and then we lose it. We don't know why we lost it. Now we're steeped in negativity, and we don't know how to get out of it because we never made the plan to know what to do when that happens. So Alicia is saying she's both of those books. That's awesome. So you're aware of both. So those are some good ones. Anything by Ram Dass is a great book. He talks about meditation and mindfulness. He's got great books. The Art of Living is another one. I think that is by, gosh, I don't remember, but it's about Goenka, the guy who spread Vipassana meditation around the world. And it's a really cool book. And it's the systematic understanding of how our minds work and how we are inclined towards suffering and what we need to do to overcome suffering. So I think just the act of doing it, I think just the act of reading and exploring and all that is the act of positivity. But maybe what I'm saying is it's more the context or the commitment to doing it than the actual content of each individual book, right? Like right now, I'm reading, listening actually to The Biology of Belief by Bruce Lipton. Wow. Oh my goodness. Now this is a guy, he's basically writing ultimately about how our thoughts and beliefs influence everything, including our health and well-being, our genetics, that we actually, change our genetic code by the way we think. We change the formation of proteins in our bodies, and we can turn around several really significant physical maladies, illness, pain, anxiety, by the way we use our minds. And now the book is not about how to be positive, but I'll tell you what, it's making me feel very positive because
Mm.
it's an optimistic view. And he's a cellular biologist and not a geneticist. This is all done spoken through the eyes of an elite scientist explaining this. So that's a really good one too. But as Jesus says, we've all got book lists and whatnot, and stay in touch and share with others. And
Oh yeah.
there's so much out there that'll keep you on the right road.
Yeah, and it's truthfully that I used to hate reading. That was like I would not pick up a book. I'll pick up a book and read 2 pages, and I was like, "Oh, this is stupid. Why am I reading?" And
Yeah,
now I look at myself and like, books here, book here, upstairs is like the whole thing, books, books, books,
yeah,
and it makes me happy having the actual book. That's me, because a lot of people's like, I cannot have the book. I have to read it, like over the phone or the computer,
right, right.
or listening. I like listen and reading because you
Mm,
get a lot of information both ways. You're reading it or you're writing notes of what you read, and when you're listening to, say you're writing on your car to a meeting, you're listening something that is gonna bring an idea to the meeting.
yeah, that's right. I guess the one other thing I would say about the reading, whether you're listening or actually physically reading it, is I I wouldn't rule out good fiction as another source
Hmm.
for positivity. So you don't always have to read something about how to live your life. Sometimes you read a novel that just has an uplifting message to it, and it makes you more positive because we are story based beings, right? Right. We from childhood on, we're being told stories, and stories teach us lessons, and they influence our mood. So, you read Harry Potter and that makes you feel happy and more positive because you get to sense the magic of the world or whatever. Whatever creates that shift inside of you, whether it's, just knowledge or an experience, I wouldn't rule that out as a source of positivity.
That's amazing. Yeah, like I said, like you said, it's not that you're reading the book about positivity, is what's gonna make you be positive. What you read or whatever, help you. Somebody helps you out and changes you to from that negativity moment to that positivity moment. And
Even movies, right? I mean,
oh,
like I think about how many books have given me the same feeling as uh, the Shawshank Redemption, right? A movie with Tim. Uh, Now I forgot his last name. About being in Shawshank prison and then escaping the prison, but like living gracefully inside the walls of the prison while simultaneously looking for a way out. And it was this incredible, uplifting story that made me cry. And I've watched the movie again and again because it influenced my life. And nobody was telling me how to be or what to do, but just by watching the story, it made a powerful difference. I've never read Pistol Pete. Tell me about that, Alicia. Well, maybe not right here, but at some point,
yeah,
I want to know about that book.
and
Yeah.
you went to a right thing about the movies because I don't really I like watching movies and but now I wasn't watching Netflix too much, and I started watching Netflix now, but I'm watching the documentaries. And
Uh-huh.
like I'm right now watching the Michael Jordan one. Man, it's just amazing. I'm already on episode 6, but it's just the prior to ones that I watched before that. Every single one, it was even if it was like drug cartels or anything like that,
Yeah.
I kind of was watching it and like seeing myself and applying things that I was watching. So I learned something. I was sitting down in the couch and I was like, "Whoa, I'm not actually wasting my time because I got a lot of ideas
Mhm.
from even though it was bad, some stuff that they were doing bad about money and drug dealing. I was like, but I got some ideas that like, oh, whoa, if I can do this, but not the way they did it, I can actually apply or construct and build something out of it. And I started realizing, wow, how the mind is so powerful that some of us watch them just to watch and like, oh, that was a badass movie, ooh. not me. I'm watching them. And I was like, okay, my mind is like working like ourselves. Like, okay, how can you apply this to you and of your aspects of life? How can you help that person that needed? Okay, let me write it after I finish watching this. And I was like, and to me, it's like I would have never thought that my mind would have been working that way because I'm that kind of person that, yeah, the movie was great. Oh, the movie sucked. But now it's like, wow, let me see how it's gonna help me or how can I help somebody.
Yeah, that means your mind is open and you're on fire. You know, you're like at that point in your life where you're a sponge for new information, and that being a sponge for new information is just takes things that have been around you all along and makes them, you know, very, very bright. It's like, oh, there's something to look at. There's something to look at. So Alicia over here says she's sharing her IGTV. I don't know if you want to give her a plug or a shout out, but if she's got a TV show, we should all know about it, right?
Oh yeah, Alicia, and I'm gonna reshare because I already interview here, so I'm gonna share
Oh,
our
good.
interview again, and I'll definitely bring you back so we can talk. Now that we did the interview about you and everything, now let's bring it out and talk about the books and stuff. How can
Yeah,
we help somebody out there that wants to read some kind of a book, and we can just show our books. I would just bring my stack of books and
yeah,
let
yeah.
you read it
Right.
and come away. I still remember before we finished because I know you have a meeting. I remember that what my first book that I read was Robert Kiyosaki.
Oh,
The
okay.
I
Rich
forgot
Dad.
Rich Dad Poor Dad. Yeah, somebody told me about that book. When I read it the first time, I didn't know what the heck I read. I was like, "What is he talking about? What is this quadrants? What is this?" You know, my mind was like, "I gotta go work and make some money. I gotta work 11 or 12 hours. You know, I need this money to pay the rent." And when I started reading it the third, the fourth time, I started like, those aha moments. You know, like, okay. So I started. That's when I started realizing that there's more to it to life.
Yeah.
There's more to it than just being here just in one spot or moving to another job because we're not a tree. You can move wherever you want to move if that
That's a good point.
there. And then that same book, I met somebody at that time. I think I was working at a restaurant. I think the restaurant is shut down again. It was years ago. And I gave the book away. I gave the book to that person because I thought it would have helped him more than me. And
Mhm.
to now 2020, I think 2 years ago, I saw him on Facebook and all of the things that he thought about telling me that he was gonna do, all of them, man, he did it. All of
That's
it. Because he applied it on that book. So to me,
yeah.
I'm like, I know it's a lot of years, and I gave that book away, and I somehow, some way, I will find that person again, and to have a meeting with him, be like, man, remember that time that I gave you that book,
Yep.
and he make a change. That makes me feel better, and it's nothing about the money or like, oh, I got no. It's just that the pureness of your heart that you gave that book away.
Yeah, it's a great feeling to do that. I think that's a good practice for all of us is just give books away. Give, you know, something, not just money, but give something that can influence somebody's life. It's a very powerful strategy. And if you've got no money and no book, just give somebody your undivided attention. Give them your presence.
There he goes. And I want you to finish hard right here. Say something
Yeah.
out of your heart, that is gonna help somebody out, a positive, phrase or anything that the audience that is watching us, they're gonna watch the replay, that they feel it, that everybody's going through hardship, everybody's going through a lot of things right now. But hey man, the light's still outside the tunnel, or however that thing is.
I have an idea. How about if I wrap up with with a poem that I wrote not that long ago? I think you might have heard it because I might have recited it at the Habitude Warrior Conference.
You did. I remember now.
Okay. And it's about leading with your heart, right? This is what we all need to do now in our lives. We need to stop and look at our lives and see whether or not we are being led by all the stuff going on around us, or if we're leading ourselves. And if we are we doing it just from our heads and, from out of necessity and fear, or are we leading from our hearts, right? What's the driving force in your life? So this is a poem that I wrote, and it's got a little bit of a kind of Dr. Seuss rhythm to it. So forgive it if you were hoping for rap. It ain't rap. But it really speaks to the things that mattered to me growing up and continue to matter to me now. And so the poem is Lead with Your Heart. If you make a commitment to lead with your heart, it becomes very easy to know where to start. You know not to believe everything on your mind, and what worries you sometimes will change on a dime. And nothing's impossible when you stay the course. Persistence will always beat effort and force. Like the great Don Quixote, you live by your quest. Like a phoenix from ashes, you rise over the rest. As a leader who's focused on what's here and now, you know what to do to reject or allow. You're powerful, present, loving, and so Be present and wakeful. Be quiet and know that nothing's impossible for me or for you. So go forth and lead in a way that is true. Do what you love, and the money will follow. And so will the world if your goals aren't hollow. Live from your soul, make magic from strife, and you'll leave a legacy that outlives your life.
I remember when you said that
Mm.
when you were on stage. I remember now. When you said Don Quixote, it just came back to me. Like I
Huh.
knew one word out of it came back to me. Like, oh, I remember when he said that.
Awesome.
That's just an amazing poem.
No,
And
thanks so much. Well, listen, man, it's been an absolute delight being with you here today. I really have enjoyed this thoroughly.
oh, thank you. And I'm definitely have you back when I get the book and read it, so we can go
Mhm.
over some of the stuff.
Great, cool.
And I'm
Uh,
I'm thankful and thank you for you being here. And I mean, I hope that not hope that somebody grabs something out of this and is gonna help you out through your day to day.
Oh yeah. Well, and I'll tell you what, if any of you are interested in hearing a little bit more, or maybe just reading a little bit of my newest book, I've put up a website for you guys. It's just bestofsteve.com. So just put in bestofsteve.com, and that will send you a digital download of the first chapter of Buddha in the Trenches. So you get to try before you buy. And that's a great way to kind of introduce yourself to this work. And from there, if you want to contact me or reach out, just check me out on stevetaubman.com. And I'm thrilled to meet and talk to anybody. So thanks so much. I appreciate having me on.
No problem. And it's right here. Bestofsteve.com. So don't forget it. And also go to www.stevetaubman.com that he was running the whole through the show.
Oh,
So
that's right. Okay, that's great. And Alicia, thank you for your compliment. I appreciate it. Guys, it's been a pleasure. I would love to stick around another hour, but I got to go do another one.
I
So,
know. I know. Thank you, Steve. And we keep in contact, see how we can collaborate later. And you have an amazing day and create your own story today.
thanks, guys. Take care now. Bye-bye.
Hey guys, if he said bestofsteve.com, you want to read one other chapter, so you just want to go order the book, go ahead and right here you can check everything out from him. www.steve.com is running right here. um Whoa, thank you, Alicia, for other questions. We need to make another live show with me and you and talk about the books and the books that we have read and some of the books that we can push out there that people can start reading. Either they're gonna read, audio, or having them themselves, or reading them through the phone. And we can help somebody out there that they can start, their day, or whatever they're starting, running with reading that book. The first book, like I said, the first book that I read was Robert Kiyosaki, Poor That, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And I had to read it so many times to realize what it really meant about it. And I'm gonna buy it again because, like I said, I don't have it since I give it away. But I'm gonna buy it again because it's something that you could read it. They say you have to read books not only once but more than 15 times to realize what you're actually reading. And even though you can read it 20, 30 times, every time you read it, you're gonna be like, whoa, why didn't I grab that seventh time I read it? So every time you read it, something new is gonna help you because of your leveling up in life, or you're evolving as a human, or something that you just didn't read or didn't pay attention that you read, and you're gonna grab it and use it for you, and so you can help somebody else out there. But thank you guys. I'm blessed that y'all were here and y'all loved this episode. And for all my viewers that were watching it live and the ones that are gonna watch the replay, thank you. And for my listeners that are gonna listen to this later on the podcast, not video but audio, thank you guys. And like I said, hashtag replay, hashtag live, hashtag share. And I hope you got something out of this interview and that is gonna help you. Go ahead, guys, and live your day today. Create your own story today. God bless. Peace out.